I founded the project while I was living in New York City in what was it, 20? I think I started painting on the sign late 2017, and it was just I was living. I was trying to find my way as an artist, and I needed to supplement my income in between projects, and I was looking for things laying around the subway. And I originally started painting on MTA cards and finding those and picking those up and doing small little illustrations or hand painted characters on them, and I was selling those on my website. And then I recall seeing the sign in the subway stations a few times, and it just kind of stuck out to me, and I thought it was real interesting. I was just looked at it as a plain wet paint sign. I was like, no big deal. And I left it alone, and then just, I had come home from a trip from a mural project, and I saw the wet paint sign again, and this time I took it, and it was a nice, it's rigid, it's a nice paper, and I was like, oh, what can I do with this? And I took it back to my art studio, and I think it sat there for almost a year before I actually approached it. And when I did, I took some of my iconic characters from Bunny Kitty and had it interacting with the letters, and there was something very nostalgic about it. Like it felt like it went together really well. And from there, I did my research. I was like, oh, I'll go get some more signs. I'll just go to the hardware store and grab some signs. But it wasn't that easy, because these particular signs are made by the union for the MTA. So the only way to get these signs are through the subway systems of New York City. So these are made for the MTA by the union. So so I set out looking for more signs across the system and started to do the very first series. And in that very first series, I reached out to my partner Wayne and asked him if he would collaborate, and it went on from there. But he could elaborate more on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, just what he was saying before, I didn't know the gist of the whole story. But yeah, the thing about the wet paint signs, and even Dave was saying earlier, like, they've been in the system for a very long time, decades. They've been around. The MTA actually make two signs. There's one with a more bolder letter, and there's one with a slim. It's the same font, but it's a slim, more slim,
just
slimmer.
skewed differently.
Yeah, more condensed.
Yeah, but the size of the sign is the same.
The size,
Right.
the size is the same. The vision's the same. They even have like a code number. Must be a union number or something that makes it like authentic to the MTA system. So, does the numbers change?
No, there's like some dates associated on some of the cards, but some of them have the dates and some don't, and the numbers are in different parts of the sign.
Yeah, they move them around. So we don't know if that's the
an
the
era
first batch or
right.
As they go along. But anyway, the signs are basically because they paint the subway system, but they obviously paint the subway system more since the 80s because of graffiti. So now, since the system is a lot cleaner and they have a bigger budget, they come out to the station. If there's tags on the station by riders, they come out and they clean it right away. So you see a lot more signs these days, and that's how Dave noticed the sign and was like, oh, So some days you don't see signs, and then some days you'll see several stops. You can go with several stops, and you see signs on every stop.
Right.
Right. So then we get off and steal the signs.
Yeah. So, for us, it's like looking at the sign, for them, it's like, oh, they're combating our movement and trying to silence us. And so by us taking the signs and reappropriating it with our names and the graffiti and the style, we're taking it back and winning again.
It's a constant war with the MTA, They don't like graffiti and we love graffiti. So we always feel like, they're trying to fight us and end it, and we're trying to keep creating. So the sign was a great way of doing that, and it's a perfect canvas, the shape and everything. And then the first one he did, which became kind of a staple for even today, is like not covering the whole sign. What's the purpose of covering the whole sign? He kind of like did a translucent PERSUE, simple bubble letter with a bunny kitty, and then he left just enough space so I can have my name too. And he was like, oh yeah, kind of do it like this so we don't cover the whole sign. Oh yeah, cool, I'm down. And then like, I think we did a couple, it sold right away. He was like, oh yeah man, they sold, I got money for you.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
You got money for me? You know what I mean? Oh wow, okay.
Oh, we were hand painting them with. I hand painted them with brushes.
Yeah.
A lot of people approach these things with
Differently,
mediums.
yeah. Brushes, some people use markers.
Some people just tag on it.
Some people tag on it, and some people. There's a lot of different ways from all the shows that we've done, but right after that we did a couple and they were selling. I had a young curator that was like, he wanted to give me a solo show. And this guy was very young and like very aggressive in the way of like, he wanted to make money, he wanted to get the business going. He was like, oh man, this last show from this artist sold out, man. I want to do the show, I want you to sell out. And I was like, well, I can do the art.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's a lot. One is a lot of pressure.
You can do the art. You can do amazing pieces, no problem.
Yeah. But, so I was like, hey, man, I definitely could do the art. You can do the sales, but art, just doing art for a long time with us is like you never know what you're gonna get. So we don't really expect anything. The same thing with the sign. Didn't expect anything for it. The only thing about the collaboration was that we were doing it together.
Yeah.
That was cool, right? So was the interest, and then it sold, and then we were like, oh, cool. So when that guy offered me the show, I was like, hey man, I got a friend, man. I think like the dude's got like, different styles and stuff he's doing, and I think it'll fit in this gallery. You know what I mean? I think he could sell out. That's what I said.
Yeah.
He was like, who? I was like, PERSUE. He said, oh, I kind of heard of that guy. I don't know him. I said, well, that's no problem because I know him. And I could introduce you. So I introduced him.
Yeah.
He went down, and then he thought about, like, instead of doing a PERSUE Bunny Kitty show, he was like, yo, we should do a wet paint show. And then what I'll do is, like we did the collabo, I'll get guys, and you get guys, and we'll do collaborations on them, or some guys will just give it to them, and they can do their interpretation.
The first shows I was trying to collaborate with everybody, and I learned, that like with the growth of the shows, because we did that show and it was a success. Like,
huge success.
From there it moved on to like international shows, and like I was like, I can't collaborate with everyone, so I'm just going to open this up to the community because that's what graffiti is. That we're writers, whether we get along or not at times, or we're beefing, or we're friends. We're still a community. We still represent something, and the writer's job is to create context with what's going on in the world. We're artists. Like this is what's happening, and some there might be a group of people that look at what we do and they look at it. Oh, it's ugly. It's decay, but like, hey, look at the world around you. Look what's happening, and it's a job of an artist to continue that to put it out there and have people like say, hey, actually what they're doing is beautiful, and the storytelling and where they're coming from is exciting, like these guys, they put their butts on the line to create their art. And why do they do that? Because they're standing up for themselves and they're standing up for their communities to raise awareness of like, fight the system. Like there's a bunch of, distractions and things that, will take you off track. And so, we just try to, for me as an artist, I'm just trying to connect with the community and uplift it as we go.
Yeah, so this project was really great because it's a lot of things Dave said, and then just us painting for decades. I'm now painting 40 years into it, and for many years we've been like together for like I don't know, almost 30 years. And a lot of trips in Europe, because Europe is where they really welcome us.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we thought the best thing is to start off in the U.S. and at the time he was living in New York, embrace that, and then invite as many people, as many colleagues in the culture that we know to interpret their art, their style on these wet paint and build a community. Because what it is a lot of times with graffiti is that people that orchestrate the shows and curate these shows are what we call outsiders. They're not really writers. Mm-hmm. And as we move forward, into the future, the culture is so large now. It went from maybe originally Philly to New York. New York brought it to the world. L.A. and California. London, Paris, and then now everywhere. You can go to any island, any ends of the earth, Japan, wherever, and people are doing graffiti, right? So what has happened is along the way there's been some documentation, but it's minimal. So through the art, again, like Dave was saying, is what we do is by bringing the community together, we're able to still tell this story from our experience, because we don't know everything. For our experience and also the artists that we bring together. We've been bringing together writers and artists from almost the beginning of the culture to the present day of the culture, which makes this project really exciting. So many people want to get down, and we try to really invite everybody, but we still have so many people that we know that haven't gotten an opportunity yet. So we invite new people here and there, but we try to concentrate on those that we know first, and then some people. So we're trying to get to everybody, but it's overwhelming. But basically, we're building community, and this is something that without wet paint we were doing anyway, but no one knew it. So now it's great under the wet paint umbrella. Like, hey, look what they're doing.
Because we have relationships of traveling, from traveling the world and doing what we do for decades, and so it's a great way to bring it all sort of together. Well, when we opened that first show in New York, the people that walked through the door were a lot of OGs came through, a lot of people we really had a lot of respect for in their careers as writers and artists and designers. Art directors came through, people that I don't know, I wasn't really expecting such a diverse and amazing crowd. So when the place was packed, and you had creative directors or musicians, writers, buying the pieces, and
Red Dot started really happening
real fast. Yeah, the show sold out, and I was like, wow. And me, I come from branding. I worked 25 years in skateboarding, building brands, and so I had already had the ideas so wet paint could be something bigger than just this one art show. It could be a traveling show. And around that time, I was talking to DC Shoes, which is a skateboard company in California, a company that I had my hands in launching with my friends Damon Way and Ken Block, rest in peace. And so they were talking to me, because when you look back at the history of that company, when it comes to the art and the vibe of the art and that approach, I was at that foundation. And so they wanted me to come in and tell my story and capture that time in the early 90s of when we were just kids creating a brand that would become a worldwide international brand and go on to inspire high fashion and so on and so forth. And while I was there, I just pitched them. I was like, I want to do a show in Japan. You guys think you could pull some strings and give me some budget? And I showed them the concept of wet paint, and they're like, listen, Persue, we're going to do it with you. We're going to give you what you need. And we have our friend Yas5 in Tokyo, and he found a great gallery for us in the heart of Ginza, which is a beautiful part of Tokyo. We did what we did. We reached out to our community and curated the show together, and kind of like how we approached this show, we were just like, how can we decorate it and make it look cool? You know, this is a pop-up show. It's only up for like a weekend. You know, that's how we were doing it then. We were just like pop it up and then leave, and that's it. If you see it, you see it, and if you don't, you don't. And so when DC got involved, they made a really nice video about the the show and what
The origin of the show.
The origin of the show.
Yeah,
right.
with Dave, they flew in some videographers
Right.
into New York where he was living at the time,
Right.
and they were like, "Hey, so walk us through it. Walk us through the subway system. Walk us through the city. What you thinking?"
Yeah,
And,
kind of like retracing my steps of finding the wet paint sign, going to my studio in Red Hook and painting them on the signs, and like telling the story of the evolution of it and the movement.
It was brilliant.
It was a beautiful piece they produced. They released that onto the world, and you know, it was we went to Tokyo and did that, and it just sort of caught on. People started reaching out to me. I started getting phone calls from Philly, phone calls from Shanghai, where we produced a 3-story wet paint experience. And
Bonkers.
we did the Museum of Graffiti in Miami, and then the world shut down.
Yeah.
And then, but we were proactive.
Yeah.
We did things like, what did we do? We did a wet paint quarantine.
Yeah, wet paint
was-
quarantine.
Which we green screened, and we had
Yeah.
Hims, the
Yeah.
infamous train bomber, do a green screen
Yeah.
bombing on a train, and we did an interview, and we curated it, you know, and people, you know, sent us their signs. Everybody's on lockdown. No one's going
Yeah.
anywhere.
And flew to the West Coast and just
Yeah.
He had the new studio, and with his partners he green screened the
It
whole
was
place.
great, and we put,
Yeah.
you know, we had
And
interviews
we had a
come in.
DJ. We had somebody, you know,
Yeah.
another artist as a DJ. Basically, just having fun with it because
What else? are you gonna do?
nobody was doing nothing.
So we were proactive during that, and then after that, we held a contest where we
Right.
had over 400 submissions, and we had to.
And we had
judge
to
it.
go through every single one, every single.
There
piece,
was-
and really think about.
Yeah, there were so many winners. Like people, like it's crazy to look at something that you sort of like put out there, and see it just take off, and see other like artists approach and how they perceive it. It's beautiful.